Welcome back to the Danger Lounge, everybody, where all your dreams come true.
Yeah.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're here to discuss all things the Dolce Vita. Dating, sex, drugs, rock and roll, and, living a life of adventure, leisure at times, real human connection, connecting with people like we used to do in the olden days, as opposed to this processed lifestyle that I see out there, people living like they're robots. Which brings me to this point. Today's point, which is chip eaters. Now, I know what you're thinking to yourself. Danger, what the hell is a chip eater? Well, I'm glad you asked, because this is a topic that I've been meaning to address for a long time. As far as I know, I've coined this term chip eater years ago, and every time I bring it up, people kind of know what I'm talking about without me having to explain it. But then when I get into the juicy details, it's even more evident that they grasp what I'm talking about. And they're like, I know exactly what you're talking about. Or to describe someone or describe a type of person, archetype. And, I hate to make generalities, but it's true. Sometimes they do exist, and it's very useful to have this common knowledge. And they'll say blah, 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 blah. They give this description, and I'll say, what you're explaining and describing right there is a chip eater, a bona fide chip eater. Or chip eaters when they flock together, as they normally do. And you think to yourself, well, what is this chip eater? I'm about to tell you. Today I got contacted by someone who was explaining, or complaining, I should say, frustrated with square, boring people. And I said, well, you're describing, in a sense, a chip eater. What's a chip eater? All right. Since I get this question so often, I'm going to go ahead and publicly tell you what a chip eater is. Now, before I get into this, I want to just say for the record is, I'm not judging anyone. You can be a chip eater if you want to. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you how you should live, how you should behave. I'm not even telling you that being a chip eater is a bad thing. It's a bad thing. It is. But I'm not judging it. If you want to live that way, that's perfectly fine. And by the way, we're all capable of being chip eaters. Have I been a chip eater at certain points in my life? Yeah, unfortunately. I try to beat the shit out of that son of a bitch when it gets like that. But occasionally it does happen. And when I do, I need to beat the hell out of that inner chip eater. But you don't want to be one of these people. It's okay to behave like one occasionally, because we're not all perfect all the time, right? But it's not okay to accept being a chip eater. I don't think. But I'm not judging. Just so you know, I'm not judging. So let's get into it, shall we? What is a chip eater? The easiest way to describe what a chip eater is to first explain what it isn't. It is the opposite of La Dolce Vita practitioner. So if you know anything about La Dolce Vita, what is La Dolce Vita? It is the sweet life. Living life is art. A person who lives a La Dolce Vita lifestyle values creative living, choosing their own adventure. Like, remember the old books back in the day when you were a kid? At least if you're my age, you had to choose your own adventure books. And if you chose A, that might take you to page 71 where your ass would get burned by a dragon. Maybe if you pick B, you could save the princess in the castle. C is you got ice cream and went home. Whatever, but you chose your own adventure. And that was the excitement behind it, right? What was the next thing? Well, if I choose this, what do I get to do? You had a say in your own destiny, so to speak. It's a beautiful thing, right? And it's unprocessed living. Well, Dolce Vita is unprocessed living as much as possible. So just like you would choose to eat organic foods and what's natural to give your body health, clean your body out, to give yourself vitality, you would choose the same in the way that you live, because you know if you eat like garbage in, garbage out, you can perform like garbage, and processed food leaves you being unhealthy, causes issues. Well, as I've mentioned in another video, if you haven't seen this video, by the way, it's unprocessed living versus the Dolce Vita lifestyle. Watch that video because I'm discussing this very thing. Whereas no one talks about if you're living a filtered, processed lifestyle. They talk about eating a processed food. Now that's bad for you. We know the consequences of that. What are the consequences to a processed lifestyle? And I will venture to say it's emotional, psychological, and mental issues. I think that's why you're seeing, everybody on anxiety medications, depression medications, stress out the wazoo, right? If you're living a processed lifestyle, you're going to be stressed. If you're living a process like unduly stressed, unnecessarily stressed, and it's processed, so there's going to be consequences to a processed lifestyle. You're making choices. They're pushing that whole rat race thing on you, whether it's real or otherwise. Anyway, so it's the opposite of the Dolce Vita lifestyle. Dolce Vita lifestyle is living life as art, choosing your own adventure. An unfiltered lifestyle, individual thinking. Having your own, just like you would dress. Like if you dress a certain, whatever your style is of dress, maybe some of you don't care about the way you dress, but a lot of people have their own style, right? They choose the way they want to dress, how they carry themselves, right? That proverbial rock or piece of granite or marble that I always talk about, that is your life. This blank canvas that you're painting something remarkable on, that you see your vision for yourself, for your life, and you're painting it every day. It doesn't matter if anyone else sees your path or anyone else sees your potential masterpiece of marble here, or this canvas that you're painting. Ultimately, you see what that vision is. That's where it's going. All they're seeing is a very small sample of that, and they're making judgments on that. That's not for them. It's not for you to care. This is your path, your destiny, your choice. And it's up to you to live it creatively and to paint something remarkable and to create a beautiful sculpture out of this slab of marble. And that is what living La Dolce Vita is all about. So the opposite of that would be someone who's the opposite of that type of person is what a chip eater is. So a chip eater is processed lifestyle. They have a very processed lifestyle. Again, they go to their box TV, box car, box house, box phone, right? They live their life, their lifestyle through their digital resources, Facebook, social media, whatever, right? It's processed. It's a paint by numbers approach to living. So whereas the Dolce Vita practitioner is choosing to live life as art and choosing their own adventure, just like the books, chip eaters tend to, sometimes literally they eat chips. Sometimes they're on the couch, they literally eat chips. They watch other people's adventures on TV. That's another one. It doesn't have to be literal, but it's a paint by numbers approach to living. Okay, if I paint this in, blah, 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 which is socially adhering to socially acceptable and promoted benchmarks. By this age, I got to have 1.5 dogs. I have to have a white picket fence in front of a 3-bedroom house, this many kids, this whatever, right? Automatic thought, I got to get this degree, this, at this amount of time, blah, 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 blah. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, mind you. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. It can be very effective. It can be very good. A lot of people do this. Most people do this. That's not the chip eater part of it. The chip eater part is when you add all this other stuff to it as well. Okay? Watching other people's adventures on TV. That's a chip eater. While they're eating chips. That's a chip eater. Depressing. Why aren't you out there living those adventures instead of watching somebody else live those adventures? Now, hell with that. Get up off the couch and go do that. Right? The other thing is you can use a chip eater. Which one do you think is a chip eater? Which one do you think is a Dolce Vita practitioner? The Dolce Vita practitioner is out riding the waves on the beach, for their exercise. Walking from town to town and from piazza to piazza in Italy. Climbing mountains, going on trails, working out outdoors, TRX, whatever, versus inside a gym on a treadmill that's going nowhere. You ever think if you're an alien, right? An alien comes down and observes us. Because I'm always looking at human beings like that, right? Because we're a strange breed, really, when you think about it. This alien's going, what are they doing? All right, they're not cave people anymore. We've watched them evolve. They're not running after animals and catching their food anymore, right? Now, they're just going on this machine. It's going to nowhere. They're running to nowhere. That's exciting. Not even one of the best exercises anyway. Not very efficient, that's for damn sure. But they're just running to nowhere. I think there's an analogy here somewhere. I think there's a metaphor. But we're a Dolce Vita practitioner. Maybe they go dancing. Maybe they find a dance floor somewhere so you and me can dance. That's how I like to get my cardio in. And then there's other methods as well. So you kind of get my drift here, right? You're watching other people's adventures on TV instead of creating your own adventures, choosing your own adventures. Here's another big one. This is really kind of one thing, right? It's like these people, and you know what I'm talking about? Again, I'm not judging, but you know what I'm talking about. You know people like this in your life because there's like a 7-to-1 ratio of chip eaters compared to, right from I'm about to say here, 7-to-1 ratio, just an estimate, maybe even 10-to-1 ratio of people who are chip eaters compared to the Dolce Vita practitioners. We are a rare breed, I like to think. But again, not judging. I'm just saying, this archetype, you can predict. It's like they were stamped out of a factory. And the reason why they were stamped out of a factory is because a culture, whether it's a sports team, whether it's in society, whether it's in an organization like a business organization, or whether it's just a microcosm for something bigger, a culture and the tenets of that culture and the behaviors of that culture and the belief systems, the ideologies that run that culture create and produce a very systematic result, very predictable result from that system. Sure. That's why it's nurture versus nature. You can predict it. Many people, again, not all, a lot of them tend to be sheepish, right? So I've always said that in marketing, in sales, 80% of people are going to do what everyone else is doing. They're the sheep. 20% are going, and it doesn't matter what it is, music, politics, film, whatever everyone's doing, the trends, whatever the trends are, that's what they're going to follow. They'll pretend as if they're these individuals, but really you can watch them break down into groups, and it's very tribal. It's human psychology. 20% will have their own, to some degree, and we all have our cognitive biases, but to some degree, they would choose their own adventure as much as possible. They will have original thoughts, whereas a lot of these chip eaters do not typically have original thoughts. It's usually regurgitated information. They're not putting one and one together to make two in their minds. They're taking, oh, this was presented to me. This must be the real information. These people are experts. Bam, that's what the information must be. That must be accurate. Bam, that's what I'm going to regurgitate. A lot of times it's lazy thinking. Maybe they're too busy. Maybe they just don't know. Maybe they don't have the confidence to formulate their own opinions based off of their own research or whatever. But they don't typically have a lot of original thoughts. The other thing I noticed is, again, regurgitation of ideas. It's not their own ideas or things they come up with through their own observations, what we used to call the scientific method, right? Your own observations, theories, hypothesis, right? And then experimentation, control group, all that, right? This is what I've been told. This is what I saw a celebrity say. This is what I saw on the news, what have you. And it's like they were stamped out in factories. Chink, chink, chink. You can predict what they're going to say, what their ideas are. Where they stand on certain things. It's very predictable. And I notice not a lot of this going on behind the eyes. Right? There's a lot of like glazed look on their face. They're just going like robots on the treadmill of life. No rule. They're just going. to become human doings as opposed to human beings. The Dolce Vita is about being a human being, not a human doing. We're not a walking checklist. We are real life human beings. We stop, we smell the roses, we bask in leisure when appropriate. We work hard, but we also play hard. And there's a reason why we do what we do. And it's about creative living, guys. So that's what a chip eater is. Now I can put that to rest. I hope that makes sense to you. I know you know people like this. They tend to be a little bit on the square side, not really that exciting typically. Although there can be some pretty exciting chip eaters out there, I'm sure. It's really about here, right? Isn't it? It's about their outlook, about their life philosophies. You know, the Dolce Vita practitioners, I find, have their own life philosophies, their own set of standards. They march to the beat of their own drummer, whereas chip eaters don't tend to do that. Again, not judging. If you happen to be a chip eater, I'm not judging you. I appreciate you being here. And I'm not telling you how to live your life. I'm just telling you my observations is all. This is the way that I prefer to live. But I just want to clear that up. The reason I brought this up is because I get this question all the time because I use the word chip eater a lot. Or people will come to me and they'll say, God, have you ever noticed there's a lot of people X, Y, and Z, and they basically, paraphrase what I just said in the last 10, 15 minutes. And I said, yeah, well, what you're describing is either a chip eater or it's at least chip eater behavior. And they're like, chip eater? I'm like, yeah, what do you think a chip eater is? It's kind of the ideal name for it, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, put the video games down. Stop watching reality TV show. That's all chip eater behavior. Remember, I'm not telling you not how to live, right? Right? And put down the soda, drink wine and bourbon instead, or water. And, that's all. Don't be a chip eater. And don't run in these tribal groups either. Think for yourself. All right. Till next time, guys, that's what a chip eater is. And I hope to see you guys on the dance floor at one of these events. Remember, if you haven't joined La Dolce Vita or reached out to me, do so, because we're going to be doing a lot of stuff here shortly. And a lot of dating stuff, flirting with danger. And we're going to have a dating workshop. It's called a Playboy and a Therapist Walk into a Bar, where we're going to talk about dating, communication skills, flirtation styles, creating real connection. After all, La Dolce Vita is about real human connection and living an unprocessed, unfiltered, satisfying, leisure-oriented, hedonistic, outstanding lifestyle. So if any of that sounds appealing to you, contact me so we can get you on a list and we can start living La Dolce Vita and connecting together through the La Dolce Vita network. Until next time, guys, be safe, but don't be too safe. Live dangerously.